Okay, hi people. So, today I'm making, I don't remember what these things are called, cup rest things. Yeah, a coaster, that's what it is, a coaster. Because I haven't used one of those in a while, and I saw a cool post on Instagram that I'll put here by a YouTuber and Instagram person called Woodbrains by Lindsay Zuelich. And I saw her do a cool thing, where she put a cup on some bits, like this one. And then I'm like, that's cool. I'll make that. So that's where we are right now. I'm gonna make a coaster out of drill bits, some mica powder, and resin. Yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so for this project, the biggest thing we're gonna be using are the drill bits. So, if I can get them onto the silicone pad. Here we go. I have 10 of them, I believe. No, 12 of them. I promise I can count. But basically how this works is I'm going to make 2 coasters. I'm going to take 6 drill bits and make this like weird thing. Not a star, but sort of like a star. Like a ninja star type pattern. And then I'll have that there. I'll build a mold around it, and then I'll pour resin in there with some mica powder. So that's what it's going to look like. So besides these drill bits that are very loud, we have the mica powders. I'm going to make 2 different variants of this coaster, one with the bronze and one with the chestnut, which is more of a copper, which is why I'm using that one. We have this epoxy resin from Nick Pro. This is what I used in a project that I didn't end up making a video for, but I might redo the ending for it. But it's a good resin. It holds pretty well. And yeah, so that's what I'll be using for the resin part. I got a blowtorch for the resin, because to pop bubbles. I've got my cup to pour the resin and mix it in. I have cardboard and a partially pre-built mold, so I don't have to build both of them while filming this. And then I've got some tape, a paintbrush for the mica, a knife for the cardboard, and some hot glue and a hot glue gun, so I can actually like stick everything down to this silicone mat, or well, stick everything down to the hot glue gun mat since it won't really stick. And then I just have the scale on the side over here because I need to make sure the resin is well measured, or because I don't want to do this again. Yeah, so material list will be down below in the comments like normal, in the description like normal, and that's about it. This lighting is also really weird because I don't have overhead lighting, so yeah, let's get into it. Okay, so first off, we're starting by going through and measuring out the distance between the points on the stars. This is just so that I know how long each side of the pentagon, I think that's the right one, are gonna be. And then from there, I'm just marking this on that sheet of cardboard. And these were cut in half, and I made sure that they were the right length by just taking the size of one side and multiplying that by 6, because math. And I just barely had enough cardboard for each one. But then from there, all I did was score each side, because by scoring each side and not cutting all the way through, it allows me to fold the cardboard very easily and have it retain its shape. And yeah, my lines weren't very great at all. I could have used a square and made that so much nicer, but I didn't feel like it. And then that very last tab is just cutting off the excess and using a dull knife. Don't do that because that's a terrible idea. But my second mold that I had already made was actually wrong because it was too small, so I just went through and used that as a template. The problem with the last one was just that I didn't give myself enough of an area gap between the length of the side and further, and I'd fix that in this new one. And then from there, I just moved on to sealing the cardboard with just clear packing tape, because resin won't stick to packing tape. Don't ask me why, but resin does a pretty good job at not sticking to a lot of like the really cheap plastic. So I've got my painter's pyramids that you'll see towards the end of this video, and cheap like plastic paint knives that I use to spread out the resin, and the resin just pops right off of them.
Again, don't ask me why. But then all I did was tape the outside of the box to make sure it retained its shape, which actually helped out a lot. And yeah, I'm not sure what else to say as I'm watching this finish. And then my sides were very off. I could have done a lot better on this, but I also want it to be very different, and that's just what I went with. So then I just took hot glue, which I did not have enough of, and I made sure I put a decent amount on each one and glued it. And how I wanted to do this, I made it so that each bit was pointing to a side and not a corner of my mold, and that was just because it made it fit and look nicer when I did that from just an aerial perspective. And then yeah, I proceeded to do that with both of these little coaster things. These ended up being really big. Like, that's a good few inches across in diameter when they finally came out of the mold, which you'll see in a while. But that was definitely a lot bigger than I was expecting. But then I also was trying to hot glue molds onto silicone. So that was fun because hot glue doesn't stick to silicone like everything else, since nothing sticks to silicone. So I just tried to put as much pressure down, and then once they were down, the best thing to do is just not move the things, and then to seal the side with hot glue, which I ran out of and ended up having a massive problem towards the end there when I went to remove the molds. Because, yeah. So then I just took the different powders, and I just did an overlay here because I didn't want to do them separately. And I just like dusted the sides because the resin does a good job at picking that up, and just tried to make it look interesting and make it so that it would be cloudy afterwards. And then I just did a bit over the edges of the bits, a bit of the powder on top of the bits, because it just made it look really nice. And yeah, that was fun. I'm just doing this all in one recording, so I don't have to like chop this up or have just like dead spots. But yeah, so then from there it was time to mix up the resin. Don't ask me how I got this so wrong, but I actually had to mix up a second coat, which you'll see again in a bit, because I'm not sure exactly how to lead up to this. But something went wrong with my scale, where after I poured the first part, I cleared it or zeroed it again. So I zeroed it when I first put the cup on, and then when I put the resin in, I zeroed it again so that I could get a good measurement. But somehow I'm a good like ounce off for the B part of the resin, and I'm not sure how that happened because I thought everything was going fine. But then it didn't, and it didn't go fine in a lot of different ways, because after I got this, when I was getting this pour done, it might look like it's pitch black and I'm recording this at 9 o'clock, but I'm actually recording this at like 11:30 in the morning, and I have my windows open, I have multiple lights on, I'm trying to get as much light as possible, and just nothing wanted to happen. So yeah, but after this I went to work for 8 hours because I need money to pay for these things, and I came back to resin everywhere and a bunch of spillover onto my desk. And I'm actually happy the resin spilled out on the bronze colored type coaster, because I really wanted to have a rise or like an upper section where you could feel the bits or half of the bit, and then have more of a resin. Okay, so I don't want to be on the camera, but you can see my hands in what is still pretty bad lighting because I'm not sure what's going on with my camera. But yeah, it's finally that time, as the car decides to go by, where everything is finally like cured. It's been a good day since I've done this. We had a little problem. Well, I had a little problem. You see this? That is all resin that is now stuck to my table. So that's fun. But this is going to be the nice thing about this, that I can just pop each of these right off. That was really satisfying. And then all of this, actually I'm going to bring you in closer for this one because that was super satisfying. And then all of this is just going to be cleaned up, and then, well, I'll see where I go from there because I might have to do something else first. Okay, so now This is just a shot of me peeling off the other mold. Yeah. Okay, so after that struggle, I just started to peel everything off. The resin itself isn't a really good hardening resin, I found out during this project. It's best. I was looking into it, and it's actually for just covering paintings, which explains a lot. But from here, I just cut slits down each corner, and then this allowed me to peel back the cardboard, and most of the cardboard just like came off pretty easily from the sides, but because the resin had leaked under, I actually had to take my X-Acto knife and just do a small cut along each edge, which wasn't too bad because it was really easy to get through, and probably would be easier if I had a non-dull knife, but everything just came off and it left pretty smooth edges, I could say. But yeah, and then I did that with both pieces. I only recorded one because I didn't want to record the other, and just for repetition reasons. And then here is where I'm mixing up resin to fix the mistakes from last time. Because when I was cleaning up the edges on these coasters, there were a lot of parts that weren't fully cured because they weren't properly mixed, and I'm not sure if that was because of the fact that I'm missing an ounce of resin for one part of the mixture, or also because I could maybe have not mixed it thoroughly enough, but I never have had that problem, and I've worked with resin, not a ton, but a decent amount. So yeah, that was fun. And then me trying to balance these little coasters on the painter's pyramid was also a fun mess because I didn't want to put gloves on my hands. So yeah, and then that's about it for this. Those little yellow things are what I was calling the painter's pyramids. They're really useful for propping anything up from the ground, and again, the resin doesn't stick to them, so all the resin just pops right off. But yeah, that was fun. And one thing to know with this is make sure that you have enough resin when you're doing this, because I had no idea. I was just going into this blind, which I seem to have a habit of doing, and I ended up having more, as you can see from that little pyramid thing. And then yeah, make sure that you keep an eye on cleaning up the sides, and then making sure you don't have bubbles by using the blowtorch, because that's what blowtorches are for when you use resin. So yeah. And then that tiny triangle thing, I'm not sure why I did what I did with it, but it actually turned out pretty cool. I'm not sure where I have it sitting right. Oh, actually I found it with me. But yeah, I'm happy I made that. It's can't be a paperweight because it's not heavy at all. It's pretty light. But it's cool. And then I got this nice shot of the resin dripping off the side of the thing, and then I got to peeling off the silicone from the microphone, and now we're on to final shots.
Okay, so thank you guys for watching this video. Yeah, thanks to Woodbrains by Lindsay for giving me the inspiration on making these cool little coaster things, or I guess now it's a coaster and like a plate. But yeah, thanks, and that's gonna be it. So if you like this, you should like, subscribe, share this around, do all of that fun stuff, and I'll see you guys next video. Cool.